Hey everyone, welcome back to another product review here. This time I am standing with Alation. Please introduce yourself and let the audience know what's awesome about what you work with.
Awesome. Nice to be back. Third year for me. So my name is Tom Codling. I run our solutions engineering capability for EMEA. Been with the company for about 5 years now. So when I joined, we were maybe 4 people running around with our hair on fire. We're now about 80 in the region. Lots of customers in the Nordics. So good to be back. But today we're just going to go through a little bit about what Alation is and really what we're trying to drive. So I think when I've been here before, we've talked a little bit about understanding context around what the data is, what data we have, how it's being used, where it goes. We've transformed our messaging a little bit because whilst that's still an important part of what we do, we're seeing organizations fail in their data initiatives. Now, the key thing here is that trusted data is really important. AI is all over the place, but outside of AI, there's architectural concepts like data mesh, data fabric, and they're still very much being spoken about. How do I build data products? How do I populate those data products to my data community so that they know what's available to use? So really, the size of the prize is absolutely massive. McKinsey say it's going to be between $2 and $4 trillion annually. And organizations need to differentiate themselves when it comes to using data, or they're going to get left behind. But the problem is those data initiatives, more often than not, don't really get off the ground.
Wow, this number has been around for a long time, and I can see that this one is only from last year, but it was like 10 years ago that companies are just really bad at getting these initiatives off the floor.
Absolutely, and the reason for that, and we're going to go into this a little bit, it's around the maturity. Right? People get ready from a technical perspective, but what we see is that they lack the initiatives that actually get their data communities ready to go with what's being enabled from a technology perspective. Right? So whilst they're implementing fancy new data warehouses, fancy new BI tools, actually understanding how that data should be interpreted, understanding in what context you're allowed to use it, people are still fearful of using that data because people want to do the right things for organizations, for the organizations they work for, and they're scared of misusing that data. The penalties for getting it wrong are absolutely massive. GDPR is, 4% of global turnover for falling foul of those regulations. So people are still fearful. Right? There's a lack of data culture within organizations. People aren't thinking first about data. Right. And that is what's causing these data initiatives to fail.
Okay.
So it's not just about understanding what's there, it's also how do I use it? How do I get access to it? How do I bring that into my daily purview of what I'm doing?
Yeah.
And this is really it. Those data initiatives fail when organizations don't build a data culture. So we see a number of pillars that fall into what we call a data culture, and by bringing all of these pillars on board, you can then drive data usage and data consumption within your organizations to make better decisions, whether it's the more traditional business intelligence route or through the advent of AI and those capabilities within your organization. Okay, so those pillars are search and discovery, data governance. That really is the technology part of the discussion. How do I look across my enterprise data landscape and understand what's there and what's available to use? And then importantly, once I've found that thing that I want to use, how do I then go about using it? What policies are in place? What regulations do I have to adhere to when it comes to actually accessing and using that data? But then there's the process, there's the people part of this, the data literacy. How do I understand what skill gaps are in my organization, and how do I then fill those skill gaps? And also, is this change being driven from the top? Do I have the right leadership in place who understand the business value of implementing this sort of program to be able to drive that change effectively? And that's where Alation comes in. And certainly we solve for the technical aspects of this, but in the same way that if you buy Salesforce, you don't immediately have a better customer experience just by implementing CRM. you can't just put search and discovery across your data environment and expect all of a sudden people to use data better. What you have to do is you have to expose those literacy programs, available training capabilities, understanding the skills that are required to actually be able to use that data better and make better decisions based on the data, and then communicating that change management from the top, and all of that comes into the Alation data intelligence platform.
I get the sense that upskilling is one matter, and there might be a matter of upskilling in terms of technicalities, like you need to understand the details and that kind of stuff. But it's a little bit like swimming, where you can understand all the details, but it's sort of hard to say you know how to swim without actually jumping into a pool and trying it for yourself.
Absolutely. There's another element to this that's quite interesting. So from an adoption point of view, we have seen organizations struggle from a data consumer perspective, and this is why we're looking at that people and process part around the data community. But we're also seeing that organizations struggle from the perspective of just trying to get this thing off the ground, right? A data intelligence platform really is only as good as the metadata that you get inside the platform. So comprehensive descriptions, understanding who your steward should be, and then being able to ask questions of that data. And what Alation's doing is we're actually leveraging AI. Now, we talk a lot from a company perspective around having trusted data flowing into your AI models to get good information out the back end of it. But we're also leveraging AI to upscale organizations' capability around just managing this stuff. So stewardship is a big problem. Nobody comes to work to write a bunch of descriptions for data assets. It's not something that we want to do, it's something we have to do. And we want to help people do that using AI by identifying who the right people are to take on that work, and also to then help them in a starting point for actually writing those descriptions. And I'll show you a little bit on that.
It's a really, really good use case for generative AI. I find that it's good for people to hear this stuff because they wouldn't think of it on their own, even though they know that that's exactly something it should be able to do. And then when you tell it, they're like, yeah, of course, that makes sense.
Right?
All right, so I'd like to see that.
Okay, give me 2 seconds and I promise you I will. So when it comes to bringing that data culture together, it's not just about getting the right tool in place. It's about how you would then build programs around the tooling to make sure that you can then publicize that capability to your wider data community. And that's really what we talk about when we talk about data culture. It's getting the usage of data into people's daily vocabulary. With that being said, let's kind of jump into this. So the other thing so I said nobody comes to work and wants to write a bunch of descriptions. The other thing people don't want to do when they come to work is really use a catalog, right? It's something that you kind of have to do because you want to understand what this data is, right? But you don't want to jump into the tool. So a big part of our product development over the last 12 to 18 months has been bringing the value of a curated catalog into the places where people do their work. So, if I want to start understanding a little bit about how our customers spend their money, I'm probably going to start in my BI tool. Right? It's probably not going to be Alation where I actually begin my journey. So we've got Tableau now, but I'm on my dashboard here, and I can see that actually there's a data quality warning. So I want to know what that is, and I can see here that there's some information that's being populated from Alation directly into the Tableau user interface. Again, putting those warning signs right in the eye line of people that are working with data.
So there's a compliance issue with this data, is that right?
Of course, yeah. So then, what I then want to do is I want to understand, well, what does that even mean? So I probably then don't even want to go to a data catalog. I want to go to my collaboration tool of choice, and you can see here that I've messaged my colleague Mel on Teams to say, look, I'm trying to do this analysis. I found this thing, but there's a DQ issue. Can you help me understand that? Mel's come back and said, look, it's coming from a table. There's a problem. So I'm just going to tell him that I'm just busy with my DIS presentation. I'll go grab a coffee and then we'll dig into it. But I can see within the collaboration platform information about those data assets. So there's direct integrations where people actually collaborate.
Right.
Now, if I want to actually dig into this...
Pretty slick.
Thank you. If I then want to dig into this, this is when I can then depart from where I do my daily work and head to a catalog. And I can then understand what on earth is this data quality issue. Now, I can see a couple of things here. I can see that there's a warning. And there's my DQ bot telling me that Experian has been busy. Experian being our data quality tool of choice in this case. We work with many others. We have an open DQ framework so we can integrate. But it's been busy, and it's understood that there's a problem with one of my columns. So I want to understand, well, which column is that? And I can see that on this particular table, happens to be in Snowflake, that there's my TX ID column. It's given me issues. Now, while I'm here, I will just point out, Alation is suggesting to me potential stewards of this asset based on our understanding of usage patterns both in Alation and outside of it. So this is an AI-generated suggestions for who would make a good steward for this particular asset.
What do these little sparkles mean?
Those are the AI suggestions. Okay. Yeah. So I can either reject those. I can say, well, actually, I don't want a group doing this. I can say no thanks to that. But David, yeah, you'd make a good steward, and I can accept that suggestion from our Ali AI engine. Cool. At the same time, I can see that this description is pretty rubbish, right? This isn't telling me an awful lot about what this table is.
Yep.
So I can actually rewrite this description. And again, I can go out to Ali AI, and it's going to tell me, right, based on the usage patterns of this data, this is what we think this table is all about. And again, I can thumbs up, thumbs down. Bulk curation is coming later in the year, so this is something we're quite excited about, which is, again, we want to give people a starting point for their journey in terms of curating these assets. I'm sure we've all been there where you sat down, you're looking at an empty page, you know you have to do something, but just getting those first few words on the paper, that can be that can be a really daunting experience. So we want to actually get people beyond that, so that they are, they can actually start curating meaningful information from a starting point.
This was a very good description, all things considered. I mean, we can sit here and philosophize about stuff, but of the types of descriptions I tend to see in production, written by humans, this one is better. So you and I can sit here and be like, oh, well, LLMs are like this and that. But if everything was filled in like this, it would just make life a lot easier.
At least this would give you a starting point. I think that there are, there's probably nuances and context that a human's going to have. Yeah. Especially if they work closely with this data on a day-to-day basis, they probably understand, trends in the data more so than our AI engine.
I mean, for sure, but like that terse sentence you showed in the beginning, a lot of stuff is filled in that way, and just compared to this is much better.
Absolutely, and the benefit of having this is that then it gets indexed behind our search capability. So if you're now looking for distribution of transaction statuses or something along those lines, this table is going to get a hit, right? Whereas previously it wouldn't. Right. So the
discoverability becomes a thing.
Absolutely. So you're increasing the discoverability as well as the context that people get when they actually visit a page within Alation. Now, we're doing other things with AI. It's actually quite exciting. So full semantic search is going to be coming later this year. So you're actually then going to be able to ask questions of the data, and based on our understanding of what that data actually is and how it's used, we're going to get more contextual results based on the semantics of the question you're asking. SQL generation's coming, which is going to be very cool, because then you can just ask a question in search, and it's then going to generate you a query that will actually get you access to live data, assuming you have the right permissions to access that data. But then what we want to do, so going back to my DQ issue, I want to understand, well, who's impacted by this? So Alation not only looks at what you have, it also looks at how it's used. Now, this is our old lineage capability. I mean, it's useful. It's automatically generated, which is a good start. But for a lot of business users, this is overly complex, right? People look at this and
looks heavy.
They're immediately terrified. So where we're going with this now is system-level lineage. So we can now see a compound view of how data flows between systems, Again, it's all automatically generated. And what we can now do is we can layer on top additional metadata points. Now, at the moment, we're focusing on our information flag. So if there's a particular warning or a deprecation, then we want to be able to trace that through the lineage graph. But what will be coming is things like policy information, business descriptions of data assets, and we can see how those assets also flow through technical lineage.
And who's doing this? Is this a data product owner that's doing this journey that you're demoing now? Like, who would do this?
That I think is a good starting point. So it's somebody that's looking to build data products. They want to understand the flow, or data engineers. They want to understand that technical flow. But ultimately, if we look downstream, we can see that this flows into business intelligence. So if I am the owner of a particular BI asset downstream, and I can see, oh, hang on a second, there's a deprecation that's been propagated because there's a DQ issue upstream. I want to know, where's that come from? What impact does it have on my analytics? And who do I contact to get it fixed, right? So it works both ways.
Right.
So going back to my data, my data owner, I know that it's my transaction ID column that's causing me problems.
That one.
And now I can't find it, which is always great.
TX.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
And now what I can do is actually trace that lineage through my environment at a column level, so I can understand where does that particular data quality issue. On trace view. Hey, live demos, gotta love it. When in doubt, refresh the browser. Right, so now I can understand at a column level, where does that asset move through my environment? And critically at this point,
you were saying this is in Snowflake.
I mean, this works across our platforms.
But, right. So
this is from Snowflake. We can see that
I think a lot of people. I'm asking only because a lot of people imagine that you can only get this level of sort of insight from a single platform where everything is controlled in one place.
Absolutely not. So we have connectors to 100 or so different data platforms with a lot of capabilities coming for cross-system lineage as well. So this could be in Databricks, it could be in MySQL, Postgres, it doesn't really matter. What we're looking at is the connectivity to downstream platforms like Tableau or Power BI or wherever that data is actually then exposed. But this is a functionality of what we call query log ingestion. We look at how the data is being used and we build this lineage automatically.
Sorry to throw you off your script, but what would your advice be to customers that are wondering if they should use the data catalog that's built into Databricks or Snowflake versus like how much of your features versus stuff that might overlap with what they offer?
It's a really good question, and shout out to both Databricks and Snowflake. We are both of their data governance partners of the year. They have very good catalogs, but they look within their own ecosystem, right? Okay. So Snowflake catalog is focused on data that exists within Snowflake. Unity catalog, very much on what's inside of Databricks, right? Same with Tableau. We see it everywhere. Like every product is coming out with a catalog, and they are able to document what they have within their ecosystem very, very well. The difference with Alation is that we have connectivity to all of these platforms. So we can bring all of this information into a single searchable repository, right? So it doesn't matter if my customer information spans Databricks, MySQL, Snowflake, Redshift, wherever it is. Right. I can find that information, and I can drill into, where in my BI infrastructure do I have customer information? Where in my data ecosystem do I have customer information, right? And then I can drill into, well, which source is it in, right? So it's bringing all of these systems together, and then on top of that, layering business metadata, terms, policy information, KPI definitions, data products, bringing all of that together, and being able to expose it to data consumers wherever they sit within the organization.
All right. That sounds pretty compelling to me. Do you think this new way of communicating that you've been developing for the past, would you say it's the past year or something? I mean, is it getting a foothold?
We've been on the market since 2015.
Oh, no, I know. But like...
but the data culture part of this,
yeah.
This is really something that we're bringing to market this year. And it's something that we're focusing on with our customers and our prospects to kind of build them a plan as to how they're actually going to go ahead and implement the technology solution.
All right. Well, there you heard it. If you're interested in doing data governance the complete way, go ahead and find Tom at Alation here at the booth at Data Innovation Summit, or go ahead and get in touch with Alation directly.
Absolutely. Thanks very much for having me again.
Thanks for being here.
Cheers.